Okay. Robin, I think it's back up. I don't know if you fixed it or just came back up. Okay. Just one moment. We'll get Attorney Wheel back situated. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. We can go back on the record and turn to you, Mr.
Actually, before we go back into a separate train of thought by Mr. Colton, he did bring something up earlier that I thought would be helpful. He mentioned about the LIWAP program and that it was put in place and it was temporary. And I just wanted to kind of connect some dots for the department and for the folks in the room. You know, yesterday we spent a fair amount of time talking about the company's involvement in certain organizations. One of those organizations is the National Association of Water Companies, and this is the national organization that is really promoting that represents investor-owned water utilities across the nation. We are actively working with the NAWC to make this LIWAP program permanent because we see the value of that. So I know there was some cross yesterday concerning the value of some of these organizations. So as Mr. Colton did bring that up, I just wanted to kind of connect some dots for folks in the room. Thank you.
But those efforts have been unsuccessful thus far.
Thus far, we're still trying.
Ms. Teixeira, let's come back to you. We've got the response to EOE-54 up on the screen. And if we just unch it up about 1/4 of an inch, we'll see that one of the witness sponsors of EOE-54 was yourself. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if we put the attachment up, it's a separate file, an Excel file.
I see it.
Okay. Do you have the attachment?
I do.
Okay. So if we look at line 17, we find that the households enrolled in RAP in 2021 was 483. Do you see that?
Yes.
And before we take the response to EOE-54 off the screen, you would agree with me that in the narrative response, you said that, or that was the 2019 participation, the 483, correct?
No, that.
And just as a point of clarification, the 483 that's reported on line 17 was based on participation of Connecticut Water's customers, not Aquarion's customers.
We were using that as a guideline to develop our estimated participation.
But it was a 2019 number, right?
So there's a couple pieces of information on this attachment. On row 13, the company was using a 2019 participation rate that we saw in the Aquarion CAP program. And we used that number, or we used that year, because we felt that that was more reflective of, I would say, a normal year, as it didn't include the complications of COVID during 20 and 21. The participation that's shown on line 17, 483, was based on a compliance filing prepared by Connecticut Water for the same period, their 2019 participation.
And you used the Connecticut Water participation as a surrogate, if you will, to indicate what might be expected.
Yes, we use that because that's what we were directed to use in the request.
Okay, and if we continue to go down that and we find or we see on line 18 that the participation of 483 was a participation of 0.52%. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so my question is, given Mr. Morrissey's 2017 testimony that a program would be judged, if you will, by his words being program utilization, is a participation rate of 0.52%. Does that indicate good program utilization?
I think without knowing the other data points, which would be how many customers would be eligible versus how many participated, we're unable to make that determination, which goes back to earlier testimony in the fact that we don't have that information available to us in terms of the demographics of our customers of who is eligible for participation.
But your testimony, strike that. The position of the company is not, is it, that the number of low-income customers in its service territory is 0.5% of the total customer population?
Right, I'm saying that we don't have the information to definitively state what percentage of our customers would qualify as low-income customers.
And I'm asking not whether you can definitively say what percentage it is, but whatever the percentage is, 0.5% is way below that percentage. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
I would agree that that's a very low percentage.
That wasn't my question. My question was that 0.5% would be a tiny fraction of the fraction of customers that are at or below 60% of state median on income.
Chair, I think the question's been asked and answered. He asked the question and the witness gave the best answer she could.
I thought that was a helpful clarifying follow-up. Distinction in the two questions. A general low percentage versus a percentage of a program participation, I think was the clarifying follow-up. Would you agree that's a low percentage of participation?
Of any program, sure. That's a low number for people to participate. But I'll go back on the record to state, in terms of our customer set, I have no idea what the percentage is.
You don't know whether it's 12% or 17% or 23%.
I do not.
But it's higher than.
I mean, I would agree with Mr. Colton that more likely than not that it most certainly is. The 0.52% is very low in terms of, and I would expect that the people who would be able to avail themselves of this program is probably higher than that number. So I agree with your assertion there, and that this is a low number.
Now, to go back, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm fine.
To go back to the 2017 testimony that we talked about a few minutes ago, where in 2017, Mr. Morrissey said that Aquarian would vet an arrearage forgiveness program with the department before deciding not to include an arrearage forgiveness program in your proposal in this proceeding. Did you formulate an arrearage forgiveness program and vet that program with the department, recognizing again that the department means PURA? I think we agreed to that.
I was not aware of Mr. Morrissey's testimony, and I believe the compliance order related to the merger was to propose a low-income program. It didn't define an arrearage or require an arrearage. So the proposal is before PURA. And if there are suggestions for improvement, I think I've made that clear and on the record that we want to implement a program that is beneficial, impactful to customers in need. So we will consider your input as we finalize this program.
Given that response, in formulating the low-income program that you did propose in this proceeding, did you formulate that program and vet that program with PURA before filing this proceeding?
I did not.
You just mentioned the order in that in the acquisition proceeding. Would you agree or accept that the order in the acquisition proceeding was dated October 27th, 2017?
I'll accept that, subject to check.
And before I start talking about the order in the acquisition proceeding, anticipating an objection here, I want to tell you that none of the questions I'm about to ask you are going to ask for a legal opinion or about any question of law regarding that order. Can you accept that?
Yes.
And if you hear a question as though I am asking you for a legal opinion about that order, can you tell me and I'll clarify the question?
Sure. I'm sure Mr. Pace will
Okay.
assist with that.
So on page 4 of that order, PURA states the applicants recognize that many of AWC-CT's customers have financial challenges and committed to developing and proposing in its next rate case a low-income program that, quote, could best benefit its customers in need. Do you agree that that's what the order states? The very top of page 4. Do you have that order in front of you?
We have that in the response that we provided, yes.
And just to make clear for the record, when the order talks about AWC-CT, that's talking about Aquarian Water Company, Connecticut, right?
Correct.
Just so the record is clear. So I'd like to look at the first half of that order or of that sentence. If I were to ask you the question, do many of Aquarian's customers today, not in 2017, but do many of Aquarian's customers today have financial challenges? Would your answer be yes or no?
I think that perhaps some customers have financial challenges. I don't know if many, because I don't know the personal situation of all of our customers as we don't track hardship customers in our system.
Okay, and given what you just said, we can agree that many implies a quantification of some sort. Many is more than a few, but less than most.
I agree.
Assuming hypothetically that for the purposes of this question, that Aquarian has 185,000 residential customers, and that 20% of those customers, or 37,200, have incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty levels, would that be many customers?
Can you repeat that statement?
Assuming for the purposes of this question, that Aquarian has 185,000 residential customers, and that 20% of those have income at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. Would that be many customers?
If you do the math, I would say yes, that would qualify as many, but I can't say that 20% of Aquarion's customers actually have hardship.
Agreed. And that's, the question was assuming hypothetically.
Okay,
And stepping down one level, continuing with the hypothetical of 185,000 residential customers, which is true more or less, correct? If 8% of those customers, or 15,400, had incomes at or below 100% of the federal poverty level, would that be many?
yes,
And stepping down one step further, continuing with the 185,000 customers, if 4% of those customers have incomes at or below 50% of the federal poverty level, or 7,100 customers, would that be many?
yes, but obviously fewer than the previous examples.
Okay, let's go back to the second part of the sentence in the order that said that Aquarium would propose in its next rate case a low-income program that could best benefit its customers in need. Actually, I want to stick with the first part. Mr. Morrissey referenced financial challenges. Would you say that the disconnection of service is a financial challenge?
In some cases, yes,
Fair enough. Would you agree that the non-payment of a bill for long enough that you receive a bill disconnection notice, so not necessarily an actual disconnection, but you receive a disconnect notice, does that represent a financial challenge?
to some customers, yes,
Would you agree that the need to make trade-offs between paying your water bill and paying your rent or mortgage would be a financial challenge?
yes,
Would you agree that the need to make trade-offs between paying your water bill and buying food or medicine is a financial challenge?
sure.
I'd like to show you a study from the University of Michigan.
Chair, I have no objection to showing the decision because the witness actually referenced that decision from the 2017 proceeding. And so to me, that's a piece of evidence that's cross-referenced in the record. But actually producing, I just want to confirm, is this study actually in the record? Because if the witness didn't cross-reference it, or if it's not cited in somebody's testimony, they're now seeing this information for the very first time. And my understanding was the cross-examination would be of evidence in the record. So can you just make a showing of where in the record this information appears?
The evidence isn't in the record, but again, it's not being offered as an exhibit. It's actually technically, not to sound overtly contentious, it's actually being used for impeachment. It doesn't, and as we all remember from law school, you can impeach someone with extrinsic evidence that's not in the record. So this study is being used to question some of the assertions Ms. Texera made in her testimony, and just to ask for her certainty as to those assertions based on some extrinsic facts. Again, facts are not being offered for their own truth. They're just being offered for their reaction by Ms. Texera.
And I would just ask, that where in Ms. Texera's testimony, in her testimony they're referring to specifically?
But Mr. Colton's going to get to that, but it's issues like average water bills, and how those compare to national information.
Are we in Ms. Texera's pre-file testimony?
It doesn't relate. No, strike that. It relates to her last 3 or 4 answers where she talked about, she was asked and agreed that if people are disconnected, that's a financial challenge. And the last 3 or 4 questions that she responded to, and which therefore represent her testimony in this proceeding, I'll show you how it relates to those last
Chair,
3
I
or
think the
4
question I
questions.
would have would be that, her questions related to a hypothetical that were proposed just today by Mr. Colton, I believe, and I think she said that that sounds right. And so if she's saying that sounds reasonable, that could be many. So I just want to understand that this is being shown, this is being offered to demonstrate that her conclusion that that was many is untrue. Is that what the impeachment purposes are?
No, the representation of the hypothetical is a misrepresentation, and we could go back and have the questions read again. But when she was asked, are disconnects a financial challenge? She said, I believe in many cases. She was asked, is the receipt of a disconnect notice a financial challenge? She answered in many cases. When she was asked, does making trade-offs between household expenses and paying water bills a financial challenge? She said yes. When she was asked whether reducing expenditures on food and medicine was a financial challenge, she said yes. So this continues that to now start laying the foundation for the groundwork for some questions about the extent to which she believes those financial challenges exist.
Chair, I was just going to offer, I don't have any objection if Mr. Colton wants to sponsor this as a late file exhibit under his name and he wants to introduce it that way. I'm just objecting on the grounds that it's a new piece of information that's nowhere cross-referenced anywhere in anyone's pre-filed testimony or interrogatory responses. This panel is seeing it for the very first time, is being asked to react to it.
Okay. Anything further from the OCC, and then I'll roll.
I mean, I would just say that there's no disagreement that what we're seeking is the reaction from the panel to this information. And we'd just ask that the authority take that reaction and apply whatever weight it deems necessary to it. We'd also be happy to offer the exhibit as an exhibit into evidence. Although I think what Mr. Colton's getting at is more so the reaction than offering the facts in this report as evidence.
How many pages is this report, please?
You know what, Your Honor, given the time, I will proceed without referencing the Michigan study on the record. The questions that I have to ask about the Michigan study have nothing to do with the witness adopting the study or reacting to the study. But if that's adequate, I'll just proceed with my questions without, I mean, everybody's going to know that I'm reading from the Michigan study, but I will not reference the Michigan study.
Okay. Then Attorney Wheel, if you want to, I'll treat that as withdrawal. So Attorney Wheel, if you want to take down the study, and we can proceed with the questions.
Ms. Teixeira, would you be surprised if 18% of the low-income customers on the Aquarian Connecticut system had had their service disconnected over a 2-year period?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd have to validate that number.
Would you be surprised if 80% of Aquarians low-income customers, not customers as a whole, but it's low-income customers cut back on monthly expenses in order to pay their water bill?
I don't know the answer to that question.
You don't know whether you would be surprised or not?
Can you repeat your question? Is that 80% of,
Would you be surprised if more than 80% of Aquarion's low-income customers cut back on monthly expenses in order to pay their water bills?
I would be surprised if they cut back on food to pay their water bills.
Would you be surprised if half of Aquarion's low-income customers alternated paying their home energy and their home water bill on a monthly basis?
I wouldn't be surprised.
You would be?
Would not.
You would not be. Would you be surprised if low-income Aquarian customers cut back on transportation, medicine, medical, or dental care in order to pay their home water bills?
I believe that customers that fall in those categories and contacted the company, we would work with them to ensure the continuity of their water service if they had to make a choice between those expenses and paying their water bill. We've always been very accommodating of customer requests when they are in need.
So the answer to my question would be you would not be surprised. If you've historically worked with such customers, you would not be surprised if there are low-income customers.
I wouldn't be surprised that some customers have to make those choices, but I'm not confident in the percentages that you've stated. And again, the company has historically worked very hard with our customers to ensure that we maintain their water service. I think if you look at the percentage of customers that we actually shut is very low. The number of payment plans that we have worked out with our customers is extremely high. Many of them have broken those payments continuously over the last 2+ years, and we have not shut their water and continue to honor their payment programs. That's why our aged receivables is almost 4 times the amount that it was in pre-COVID. So, I just wanted this information on the record because you are providing me with numbers that I cannot validate. I can only give you my experience with how Aquarion treats their customers and works with customers in need.
Okay. We were talking about the acquisition order a few minutes ago. And in the acquisition order, if you turn to page 23, no, I lied. If you turn to page 26, the order states, upon closing, the applicant shall abide by the commitments made during this proceeding and summarized below. And then about 5 bullets down, it says, Eversource shall maintain or improve customer service, water service reliability, and water quality at AWC-CT at affordable rates. Do you see that?
I do.
And then if we go to the very last bullet, the last bullet states AWC-CT shall develop and propose in its next rate case a low-income program that could best benefit its customers. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you know how many customers, you don't know how many low-income customers
Correct.
are
we do
on the
not know.
Aquarian system. That's what we established previously, right? Would you agree that the order for Aquarian to maintain or improve customer service, water service reliability, and water quality at AWC-CT at affordable rates is a continuing commitment or a binding, continuing commitment on the company?
Yes,
I have just one last question. Has nothing to do with the World Cup.
with the what?
With the World Cup.
Oh,
If we turn to the company's response to OCC-312. Do you have that? Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
The question was, separately provide a detailed list of all available research within the custody or control of the company prepared within the past 7 years, which shows the contrary, i.e. that reducing a low-income utility customer's utility bill to an affordable percentage of income does not improve the low-income customer's success in paying his or her utility bill. Do you see that?
I do.
And the answer was the company does possess research on the requested topics. Did you drop a word there?
Yes, I did.
So in fact, what you intended to say, you intended to have the word not between the words does and possess, right?
Correct.
So again, just to make the record clear, the correct answer or your intended answer to this data request was the company does not possess research on the requested topics.
Correct.
I have no further question. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Consumer Counsel Coleman, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to continue or do you want to pick up with your cross on Monday morning?
I think it's best to pick up our cross Monday morning, given Mr. Colton has to come back anyways, and Attorney Wheel and I both have a few follow-up questions.
Okay. Very good. So we'll put pen in it for now, which leaves us with the remainder of cross for this panel. Then we will proceed into the OCC's panel on the same topic before we pick up the cost of capital. So for those of you as witnesses for the cost of capital, I mean, I think we're looking probably more at an after lunch pick up the cost of capital witnesses. Okay. Then we have
In the read-ins, Chairman, I know we have to provide a read-in K, read-in O, and just the remainder in sequence after read-in O. So we'll be prepared, Chairman. We will do our best to make sure we can provide those read-ins at the commencement of Monday's hearing, if that's acceptable to the chairman.
It is. So, I'm sorry, Attorney Pace, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you. I have KOP Q and R.
Correct.
KOPQR. Okay, very good. Are there any administrative matters that we haven't covered? No. Any parties in the audience with administrative matters? Okay, then I think the last thing to say is, let's see, we are up to 65 late file exhibits. So I think some of them, but not all of them, have been uploaded to the docket. So we will get the rest of those in tomorrow morning. Any late file exhibits that are issued Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if we use all 3 days, would have a separate due date according to the schedule. So I think we're on track for that. If there is nothing further, we can adjourn for the week and we'll pick up Monday at 10 a.m. Thank you.
No drafts.
Yeah, let's try to remember the rules version.